The massive station hung in space like a silver fortress, orbiting Jupiter with slow precision. Inside its grand chamber, 12 holographic figures towered over a single human who stood on a platform that seemed impossibly small. The figures glowed with different colors, each representing a species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They were the Galactic Council, and they had summoned humanity to face judgment. Ambassador Daniel Cross stood alone on that platform, his simple gray suit a stark contrast to the magnificent alien forms surrounding him. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many negotiations end badly. But today his expression showed no fear, no nervousness, nothing but calm determination. The largest hologram, a being of pure golden energy, spoke first. Its voice echoed through the chamber like thunder rolling across an open plain. This was Overseer Zarthine of the Lumina Collective, the most powerful member of the Council. When it spoke, entire civilizations listened and obeyed. Humanity stands accused of 17 violations of galactic law, Zarthine announced. You have expanded into restricted territories without authorization. You have developed weapons that breach our technology treaties. You have refused to acknowledge Council authority over your species. These are crimes that cannot go unpunished. Daniel listened without moving. His hands stayed at his sides, relaxed and still. He had been briefed on this moment for months. Earth's leaders had prepared him for every possible scenario, every question the Council might ask, every demand they might make. But in the end, they had given him the simplest instructions of all. A red hologram shaped like a massive reptilian warrior leaned forward. This was Commander Krell of the Vorten Empire, a species that had conquered 40 star systems through military might before joining the Council. His voice was rough and aggressive, meant to intimidate. Your species has grown too bold, human. You spread across your solar system like a disease, building weapons and fortifications as if you were preparing for war. Did you think we would not notice? Did you believe yourselves beyond our reach? Daniel remained silent. He met Krell's burning gaze without flinching, but offered no response. The chamber filled with an uncomfortable quiet. Several council members shifted in their holographic forms, confused by the lack of reaction. A blue, flowing figure that resembled living water spoke next. Chief Diplomat Sestar of the Aquarii was known throughout the galaxy as a master negotiator who had prevented countless wars through careful diplomacy. Her voice was soft but carried a sharp edge of warning. Ambassador Cross, you must understand the gravity of your situation. The Council offers humanity one chance at redemption. You will submit to our authority. Allow us to dismantle your military installations and accept permanent monitoring of your species. In exchange, Earth will be spared. Your people will live under our protection and guidance. This is mercy, human. We expect you to accept it gratefully. The other council members nodded in agreement. In 10,000 years of galactic governance, this was how the process always worked. A young species would grow too ambitious, challenge the established order, and face the Council's judgment. Then, faced with overwhelming force and the threat of annihilation, they would beg for mercy. They would submit, accept their place in the hierarchy, and learn to be grateful for the Council's benevolent rule. Daniel Cross took a slow breath. He had rehearsed his next words 1,000 times, but now that the moment had arrived, they felt heavier than he had imagined. He thought of Earth, floating in the darkness of space 300 million miles away. He thought of the billions of people watching this transmission, waiting to hear their fate. He thought of the military officers who had told him that war was coming regardless of what happened here today. No, Daniel said simply. His voice was quiet but clear, cutting through the chamber's silence like a blade. The council members froze. Several holograms flickered as if the word had caused some technical malfunction. Overseer Zarthine's golden form brightened, pulsing with what might have been confusion or anger. Explain yourself, human, Zarthine demanded. You refuse our mercy? You reject our authority? Daniel straightened his shoulders. Earth declines to respond to your ultimatum. We will neither submit nor plead for forgiveness. We have violated no legitimate laws because we do not recognize your authority over humanity. We never agreed to your treaties or your rules. You claimed jurisdiction over our species without our consent, and now you demand we surrender our freedom because you say so. He paused, letting his words sink in. If you believe we have wronged you, then do what you must. But we will not beg. We will not kneel. Earth's answer is no, and that is final. The chamber erupted in chaos. Multiple council members tried to speak at once, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of disbelief and outrage. Commander Krell roared something in his native language that the translators mercifully did not interpret. Even the diplomatic Cessitar seemed at a loss for words, her watery form rippling with agitation. Overseer Zarthene raised one glowing appendage, and the chamber fell silent once more. The golden being stared at Daniel for a long moment, as if trying to understand what kind of creature would choose certain death over surrender. You do not comprehend what you have done, human. This council commands 12,000 warships. We have brought order to a chaotic galaxy. We have ended wars and united civilizations under one peaceful banner. Species that defied us are now dust and forgotten history. And you, representing a race that has barely left its own star system, dare to stand here and refuse us? Daniel met the overseer's gaze without wavering. I understand perfectly. You've mistaken our youth for weakness and our silence for ignorance. You believe that because humanity is new to the stars, we would be easy to control. You are wrong. Zarthene's form pulsed brighter, filling the chamber with harsh light. We grant you 48 hours to reconsider, human. Return to your world. Speak with your leaders. Make them understand that the alternative to submission is extinction. When you return here in 2 days, we expect you to arrive with Earth's unconditional surrender. We expect you to plead for the mercy you so foolishly rejected today. Daniel bowed slightly, a gesture of respect but not subservience. I will deliver your message, Overseer. But Earth's answer will not change. We do not plead. We do not surrender. And we do not kneel to anyone. He turned and walked toward the chamber's exit, his footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. No species had ever walked away from the council like this. No ambassador had ever shown such disrespect, such complete rejection of the established order. The holograms watched him leave, unable to process what had just happened. 300 million miles away, aboard the orbital defense station above Earth, Admiral Catherine Price watched the transmission end. She stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the military readiness of every human installation in the solar system. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations, coordinating the defense of humanity's home. Catherine was a woman in her 40s with short dark hair and the sharp eyes of someone who had spent decades in military service. She had fought in the resource wars on Earth, commanded humanity's first deep space missions, and now carried the weight of their survival on her shoulders. She had hoped diplomacy would buy them time, but she had never truly believed it would work. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morris approached her station. He was young for his rank, barely 30, but he had proven himself as one of humanity's best strategic minds. His face showed the same grim determination that everyone in the command center felt. Admiral, Daniel delivered the message exactly as planned. The council gave us 48 hours to reconsider. Catherine nodded slowly. And they expect us to spend that time panicking, arguing among ourselves, maybe even turning on each other. They think fear will break us, will it? Jake asked quietly. Catherine looked at the holographic display of Earth rotating peacefully below them. Cities glowed like jewels across the dark side of the planet. Billions of people going about their lives, unaware that their entire civilization stood at the edge of annihilation. But she had seen humanity face extinction before, during the climate crisis, during the wars that nearly tore their world apart. Every time they had survived by refusing to give up. No, she said firmly. Fear will make us stronger. The Council has never faced a species like us before. They don't understand that humans are most dangerous when we have nothing left to lose. Captain Lisa Grant entered the command center. She was the youngest ship commander in the fleet, only 32 years old. But she had earned her position through brilliant tactical thinking and fearless leadership. Her ship, the EDS Relentless, was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. Admiral, the fleet is ready. Every ship, every station, every weapon system is online and waiting for your orders. The Council thinks we'll spend the next 2 days begging for mercy. What are your actual orders? Catherine Price smiled grimly. It was the smile of someone who had accepted what was coming and decided to face it head on. We use these 48 hours to make final preparations. Check every system twice. Run combat drills until every crew member can respond in there. The 48 hours passed in absolute silence. The Galactic Council waited for Earth's transmission, expecting desperate pleas for negotiations, offers of compromise, or at least some sign that humanity understood the danger they faced. Instead, they received nothing. No messages, no diplomatic channels opened, no emergency broadcast begging for more time. Earth simply went quiet, as if the Council's ultimatum had never been delivered at all. In the Council's grand chamber, now relocated to their flagship in neutral space, the 12 members gathered once more. This time there was no single human standing before them. The platform where Daniel Cross had stood remained empty, a physical reminder of humanity's defiance. Overseer Zarthine's golden form pulsed with agitation. In 10,000 years of governance, the Council had never encountered such complete disregard for their authority. Young species were supposed to be terrified when facing judgment. They were supposed to scramble for any possible way to avoid destruction. This silence was unprecedented, and it unsettled even the most confident Council members. "They mock us," Commander Krell growled, his red holographic form crackling with barely contained rage. "This silence is an insult that demands immediate response. We should dispatch our fleet now and reduce their pathetic world to ash. Let them learn what happens to species that refuse to acknowledge their superiors." Chief Diplomat Cessatar rippled thoughtfully, her blue watery form reflecting light in complex patterns. Unlike Krell, she had spent centuries studying how different species reacted to pressure. She had seen fear manifest in countless ways, from desperate bargaining to complete surrender. But this silence felt different. It carried weight, purpose, and something that disturbed her deeply. "I disagree with your assessment, Krell," Cessatar said softly. "This is not mockery. Mockery requires an audience, a performance meant to diminish us in the eyes of others. This silence is something else entirely. They are not trying to negotiate with us. They are not even acknowledging that negotiation is possible. Then they are fools," another Council member declared. This was Hierarch Nex of the Crystalline Convergence, a species that communicated through resonating frequencies. "We offer them a choice between submission and death. By remaining silent, they choose death. We should grant their wish." Zarthine raised one glowing appendage for silence. "We will demonstrate our power before committing to full military action. Prepare a demonstration fleet of 300 warships. They will enter Earth's star system and take position around their moon. We will destroy one of their military installations as a warning. That will break their silence. That will make them understand that their defiance achieves nothing but suffering." The vote passed quickly. Within hours, 300 Council warships began their journey toward the solar system. They were ships of a dozen different designs, built by species that had mastered space travel for millennia. Each vessel carried weapons capable of destroying cities, and together they represented a force that had conquered dozens of worlds. The Council expected this show of overwhelming power would finally make humanity see reason. On Luna Base, Colonel Ryan Blake received the warning that the Council fleet had entered the solar system. He stood in the command center buried deep beneath the moon's surface, watching sensor displays track the approaching warships. Around him, his officers worked calmly at their stations, their faces showing determination rather than fear. Ryan was a career military officer, a man who had spent 20 years preparing for threats from beyond Earth. He was in his early 50s, with the weathered face of someone who had commanded troops in harsh environments. He had fought during the Mars Colony Revolt, led peacekeeping operations in the asteroid belt, and now found himself in command of humanity's first line of defense against an alien armada. Major Sophie Turner approached his station. She was his second in command, a brilliant tactical officer who had designed many of Luna Base's defensive systems. Despite being only 28 years old, she had proven herself invaluable during the tense preparations of the past 2 days. "Colonel, the Council fleet is taking up position in lunar orbit. They're maintaining standard formation, weapons charged but not targeting anything specific yet. It looks like they're trying to intimidate us." Ryan nodded slowly. "They expect us to panic. They expect us to send desperate messages to Earth, begging our government to surrender before they start shooting." "Have we received any such orders from command?" Sophie checked her display. "Admiral Price sent one message, sir. It says, 'Hold your ground. Show them nothing. Make them wonder what we're planning.' That's all." A thin smile crossed Ryan's face. "Then that's exactly what we'll do. Status on evacuation protocols. All non-essential personnel have been moved to the underground shelters. We've got about 40 civilians left, mostly engineers. We need to keep the defense systems running. Everyone else is as safe as we can make them. And our defensive batteries?" Sophie's expression turned grim. Every system is online and ready. The Council fleet has no idea what they're sitting on top of. They think this is just a research base with a few defensive guns. They don't know we've turned the entire moon into a fortress. That was humanity's secret, the thing they had worked on for decades while the galaxy watched from afar. While the Council assumed humans were primitive and weak, Earth had been preparing. They had studied every piece of technology they could steal or buy from alien traders. They had analyzed every battle record available in galactic databases. And they had built their defenses with one simple philosophy: make the cost of attacking Earth so high that even victory would feel like defeat. Luna Base was the cornerstone of that philosophy. From the outside, it looked like a collection of research domes and mining facilities scattered across the moon's surface. But beneath that surface, humanity had carved an entire military complex. Railgun batteries powerful enough to punch through capital ship armor, missile silos holding thousands of warheads, energy weapons built into crater walls. The moon itself had become a weapon, and the Council fleet had just flown into its range. Back on Earth, Admiral Catherine Price monitored the situation from the orbital defense station. She stood in the same command center where she had watched Daniel Cross deliver humanity's refusal. But now the stakes had escalated from words to potential violence. Every screen showed different angles of the Council fleet in lunar orbit. 300 ships that could destroy the moon if they chose to. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morris stood beside her, analyzing the enemy formation. They're positioning themselves for a limited strike, Admiral. Probably planning to destroy one of the surface installations as a demonstration. They want to show they can hurt us without actually starting a full war. And if we don't respond to that demonstration, Catherine asked, then they'll escalate. Bigger targets, more destruction until we either surrender or they decide to finish the job. Catherine nodded. She had expected this scenario. The Council was following the same pattern they had used against every other species. Overwhelming force applied gradually, giving their target multiple chances to submit before committing to total war. It was a strategy that had worked perfectly for thousands of years, but the Council had never faced humanity before. Captain Lisa Grant's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, the Relentless is in position. We're holding station beyond the asteroid belt with the rest of the fleet. We can reach lunar orbit in 15 minutes if you give the order. Hold position, Catherine commanded. This is Colonel Blake's show. We don't move unless the situation changes drastically. On the moon, Ryan Blake watched as the Council fleet began charging weapons. Targeting scanners swept across Luna Base's surface installations, probably selecting which one to destroy first. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders, waiting for permission to defend themselves. Ryan thought about the billions of people on Earth below, watching the alien ships hover above their moon. He thought about Admiral Price's message, hold your ground, show them nothing. The Council expected Luna Base to either surrender or fire desperately at their overwhelming numbers. They expected humanity to act like every other species they had conquered. Maintain defensive posture, Ryan ordered calmly. All systems hot and ready, but nobody fires until I give the command. Let them make the first move. Let them show the galaxy that they started this. Major Sophie Turner relayed the orders across the base. Thousands of military personnel sat at their stations, hands hovering over firing controls, watching as 300 alien warships prepared to attack. The tension in the command center was thick enough to cut, but nobody moved. Nobody broke formation. They waited with the discipline of soldiers who understood that this moment would define how the galaxy viewed humanity. On Earth, in cities across the planet, people gathered around screens showing live feeds from the moon. They watched the alien fleet in orbit, ships that looked like they belonged in nightmares powerful beyond anything humanity had ever built. News anchors spoke in quiet voices explaining what everyone already knew. The Council had come to punish Earth for refusing to surrender. But something strange was happening. There were no riots in the streets. The Council's weapons lit up the darkness of space with brilliant streams of energy. 10 warships fired simultaneously at a defensive platform on Luna Base's surface, a structure that looked like a small dome surrounded by railgun turrets. The energy beams crossed the distance in seconds, converging on their target with precision that came from thousands of years of military experience. The defensive platform exploded in a ball of flame and debris. Metal fragments scattered across the lunar surface, glowing red-hot from the attack. On Earth, people watched the destruction on their screens, seeing the first blow struck in what might become humanity's final war. In the Council's flagship, Overseer Zarthine watched the results with satisfaction. There, now they understand. One installation destroyed with minimal effort. Surely this will break their foolish silence? Commander Krell studied the tactical displays, waiting for the expected response. Luna Base should be transmitting surrender signals now, begging for mercy, offering to negotiate. Instead, the sensors showed something else entirely. The human base was powering up additional systems, lots of them, far more than a simple research station should possess. Overseer, Krell said slowly, his aggressive tone replaced by confusion. We're detecting massive energy signatures across the lunar surface. The base is activating weapon systems we didn't know existed. These readings don't make sense for a facility of this size. Before Zarthine could respond, Luna Base opened fire. The entire moon seemed to erupt with weapons. Crater walls split open to reveal railgun batteries that had been hidden beneath fake rock formations. Underground silos launched missiles by the hundreds. Energy weapons built into the lunar surface itself began tracking targets with frightening speed. What the Council had thought was a small research base with minimal defenses was actually a fortress that humanity had spent decades constructing in secret. Colonel Ryan Blake stood in his command center, watching his tactical displays light up with firing solutions. All batteries fire at will. Focus on their capital ships first. Show them what happens when they underestimate humanity. Major Sophie Turner coordinated the attack from her station, her fingers flying across controls as she directed the base's massive arsenal. Railgun batteries 1 through 40 engaging. Missile salvos away. Energy weapons tracking and firing. Colonel, we're hitting them hard. In lunar orbit, the Council's demonstration fleet suddenly found itself in a nightmare. Railgun rounds traveling at incredible speeds tore through ship hulls before shields could adjust. Missiles overwhelmed point defense systems through sheer numbers. Energy beams carved through armor plating that was supposed to be impenetrable. A Council destroyer exploded as a railgun round punched clean through its power core. A cruiser broke apart when 50 missiles detonated against its weakened shield simultaneously. A carrier listed sideways, atmosphere venting from dozens of holes, its crew scrambling to escape before the ship's fusion reactor went critical. Commander Krell watched in horror as his tactical displays showed ship after ship going offline. Impossible. They're primitives. How do they have this kind of firepower? How did we not detect these weapons? Chief Diplomat Cessitar realized the truth immediately. Because we never looked. We assumed they were weak, so we only scanned for threats that matched our expectations. We never considered they might hide their true capabilities. We saw what we wanted to see. The Council fleet tried to respond, but they had entered lunar orbit in a tight formation, meant for intimidation rather than combat. Ships that should have been spread out for mutual support were clustered together, making them easy targets for the base's weapons. Commanders screamed orders at their crews, trying to break formation and retreat to a safer distance. But Luna Base had been designed for exactly this scenario. Every weapon system had overlapping fields of fire. Every targeting computer had been programmed to track multiple enemies simultaneously. And every person on the base had trained for this moment, knowing that if the Council ever attacked, they would have only one chance to prove humanity was not prey. Ryan Blake watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. 60 Council ships destroyed in the first minute, 90 in the second minute. The numbers climbed steadily as Luna Base poured fire into the enemy fleet. Around him, his officers worked with practiced efficiency, calling out targets and confirming kills. Colonel, enemy fleet is attempting to retreat, Sophie reported. Should we pursue? Negative. We're a defensive installation, not a pursuit force. Let them run. I want every ship that escapes to spread the story of what happened here. Let the galaxy know what happens when you attack Earth. But the Council fleet was not escaping. In their panic to retreat, ships collided with each other. Some tried to jump to faster than light speed while still in the moon's gravity well, tearing themselves apart in the process. Others focused so heavily on evasive maneuvers that they flew directly into firing solutions they might have avoided. On Earth, Admiral Catherine Price watched the battle from her command center, scarcely believing what the sensors were showing. The Council's demonstration fleet, 300 warships sent to intimidate humanity, was being systematically destroyed by a single base. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morris stood beside her, analyzing the combat data. Admiral, Luna Base has destroyed over 200 enemy ships. The remaining vessels are breaking formation and attempting to retreat. Some are jumping to FTL without proper calculations. They're running blind. Casualties on our side? Catherine asked. Minor damage to 3 gun emplacements. 2 underground installations reporting shield stress. No personnel losses. Admiral, we're winning. We're actually winning. Catherine shook her head slowly. No, Jake, we're surviving. There's a difference. This was just their demonstration fleet. A fraction of their total forces. When the Council sees what happened here, they'll come back with everything they have. Captain Lisa Grant's voice came through the communication system from her position beyond the asteroid belt. Admiral, should the fleet move to support Luna Base? Negative. Hold your position. This battle is almost over, and the real war is about to begin. I need you ready for what comes next. In the Council's flagship, Overseer Zarthene watched the destruction of the demonstration fleet in stunned silence. This was impossible. This violated everything the Council knew about primitive species. Humanity should not have this technology. They should not have these tactics. They should be cowering in fear, not destroying an entire fleet with a single base. Get me casualty reports, Zarthene demanded, though part of them already knew the answer. Commander Krell's voice was hollow with shock. 273 ships destroyed. 22 ships severely damaged and retreating. 5 ships unaccounted for, presumed destroyed. Overseer, they annihilated us. A single human base just wiped out a fleet that could have conquered most civilized worlds. The chamber fell silent. Every council member stared at the tactical displays, unable to process what they had witnessed. In 10,000 years of galactic governance, no species had ever inflicted such a devastating defeat on a council fleet. The demonstration that was supposed to break humanity's will had instead revealed how dangerous they truly were. Chief Diplomat Sestar spoke quietly. We made a critical error. We believed their silence meant weakness. We thought their refusal to plead was ignorance. We were wrong. They were silent because they had nothing to negotiate. They were preparing for war while we were preparing speeches about mercy. Then we will show them the full might of the Council, Zarthene declared, their golden form pulsing with anger. Summon the full armada. 12,000 warships will descend upon their system. We will see how well they fight when facing true overwhelming force, and is that wise? Sestar asked carefully. We still don't fully understand their capabilities. Perhaps we should open negotiations, find a diplomatic solution. Negotiations? Krell roared. They just destroyed nearly 300 ships. We cannot show weakness now. If the galaxy learns that humanity defied us and survived, every species under our governance will question our authority. We must crush them absolutely, or our entire system of order will collapse. Sestar wanted to argue, but she knew it was pointless. The Council's pride had been wounded, and wounded pride demanded blood. They would mobilize the full armada, and Earth would face a force unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. On the moon, Colonel Ryan Blake surveyed the aftermath of the battle. The lunar surface was littered with debris from destroyed Council ships. Some pieces were still burning despite the vacuum of space, their internal fires consuming whatever fuel remained. It was a graveyard of enemy vessels, proof that humanity could fight back. Major Sophie Turner approached him with a tablet showing casualty reports and damage assessments. Final numbers, Colonel. We destroyed 287 enemy ships. 15 escaped with various levels of damage. Our losses: 4 gun emplacements destroyed, 6 damaged but repairable. 32 personnel wounded, none critical. 0 deaths. Ryan nodded slowly. It was a victory by any measure, but he felt no joy. He had been a soldier long enough to know that first battles rarely determined the outcome of wars. The Council had tested them with a... The Galactic Council's war room hummed with activity, as commanders from 12 species coordinated the largest military mobilization in recent history. Holographic displays showed warships converging from across the galaxy, assembling into formation for the invasion of Earth's solar system. 12,000 vessels, each crewed by warriors who had never known defeat, prepared to teach humanity the price of defiance. Overseer Zarthene stood at the center of the chamber, their golden form pulsing with determination. Around them, military advisors debated fleet formations, targeting priorities, and invasion strategies. The plan was simple: overwhelming force applied simultaneously, leaving no room for the kind of tactical surprise that had destroyed the demonstration fleet. Commander Krell studied troop deployment schedules with satisfaction. Our forces will enter their system in 3 waves. The first wave will secure orbital superiority and eliminate their moon base. The second wave will destroy all military installations throughout their solar system. The third wave will position themselves for planetary bombardment if surrender is not immediately forthcoming. And if they have more surprises waiting? Chief Diplomat Sestar asked quietly. She stood apart from the military commanders, her watery form rippling with unease. The moon base was more heavily armed than our intelligence suggested. What if their entire system is similarly fortified? Then we will destroy those fortifications, Krell replied dismissively. They shocked us once because we were careless. That will not happen again. We are bringing sufficient force to sterilize their entire star system if necessary. No amount of hidden weapons can stand against 12,000 warships, Sestar wanted to argue, but movement on one of the holographic displays caught her attention. It showed the latest intelligence reports from across Council space. She expanded the display, studying the data with growing concern. Overseer, I need to share something with the Council immediately. Zarthine turned toward her, irritation evident in the sharp pulsing of their form. Diplomat, we are preparing for war. Unless your information is critical to the invasion, it can wait. It is critical, Sestar insisted. Over the past 3 days, 17 Council member worlds have reported unusual activity. Human ships have been detected in their systems, conducting scans and surveillance operations. They are not attacking, but they are clearly mapping our territory and defenses. The war room fell silent. Commanders looked up from their displays, suddenly paying attention. Krell's holographic form flickered with anger. Why are we only hearing about this now? Because individual reports seemed insignificant, Sestar explained. A ship here, a probe there. Local defenses responded appropriately, and the human vessels retreated when challenged. But when I compiled all the reports together, a pattern emerged. They are systematically gathering intelligence on Council worlds. She brought up a star map, showing the 17 systems where human activity had been detected. They were spread across Council space, seemingly random. But Sesitar had studied human tactical thinking since the Luna base battle, and she recognized something disturbing in the pattern. These are not random targets. Every system where humans were detected has strategic significance. Shipyards, supply depots, communication hubs. They are identifying the infrastructure that supports our armada. They are preparing for a war that extends far beyond their home system. Overseer Zarthine studied the map, their golden form dimming slightly. You believe they plan to attack Council territory while we assault their world? I believe they plan something and we do not understand what. That makes them dangerous in ways we have not anticipated. Major Sophie Turner floated in zero gravity aboard a stealth frigate positioned at the edge of a Council-controlled star system. She had been transferred from Luna base 3 days ago, given command of a reconnaissance mission that would determine humanity's next moves. Her ship, the Swift Shadow, was designed for exactly this kind of work. Invisible to most sensors, fast enough to escape if detected, and equipped with the most advanced scanning technology humanity could build. She watched her tactical display as it mapped the Council fleet assembly point. Thousands of warships gathered in formation, their combined mass creating gravitational distortions her sensors could detect from millions of miles away. It was the largest military force humanity had ever observed, and it was preparing to destroy Earth. Lieutenant Ben Carter, her tactical officer, studied the enemy formations from his station. He was young, barely 25, but he had proven himself brilliant at analyzing alien combat doctrines. Major, I'm seeing formations consistent with overwhelming force tactics. They're not trying to be clever or efficient. They're just bringing everything they have and planning to steamroll us. Sophie nodded slowly. Smart after what happened at Luna base. They won't give us another chance to surprise them. What's our estimated timeline before they're ready to move? 4 days, maybe 5. They're waiting for reinforcements from the outer sectors. Once those arrive, they'll have their full 12,000 ships and they'll advance on our system. Then we have 4 days to finish mapping their infrastructure and get back home. Sophie activated her communication system, connecting to the dozen other reconnaissance ships scattered across Council space. All Shadow units report status. One by one, the other commanders checked in. Each ship had been assigned different Council systems to survey, building a complete picture of the enemy's strategic capabilities. It was dangerous work operating deep in hostile territory, but it was essential for humanity's survival. Captain Lisa Grant, temporarily assigned to coordinate the reconnaissance operations from a hidden base in the asteroid belt, received Sophie's reports with growing concern. She compiled the data into a comprehensive analysis and transmitted it to Admiral Catherine Price at Earth. Admiral, our recon teams have mapped all primary council supply lines and support infrastructure. The data confirms what we suspected. Their armada is powerful, but it depends on a complex logistics network. If we can disrupt that network, we might be able to limit their ability to sustain a prolonged campaign. Catherine studied the intelligence reports in her command center. Around her, dozens of officers worked to prepare Earth's defenses for the coming assault. Every ship was being upgraded with the latest weapons. Every station was being reinforced, and a new system was being activated, one that would either save humanity or prove insufficient against overwhelming odds. Jake, Catherine called to her chief strategist. How long until the quantum network is fully operational? Lieutenant Commander Jake Morris looked up from his calculations. 48 hours, Admiral. Professor Alan Hughes says the final calibrations are nearly complete. Once active, every human ship station and defense platform in the solar system will be linked in real-time coordination. We'll be able to share targeting data, tactical information, and sensor feeds instantly across the entire fleet. Will it be enough? Jake hesitated before answering. It will give us an advantage no other species has. Perfect coordination across vast distances. No communication lag, no chance of information being intercepted. But the Council is still bringing 12,000 ships, Admiral. Even with perfect tactics, we're outnumbered more than 20-1. Catherine nodded grimly. She had known from the beginning that winning was impossible in conventional terms, but humanity didn't need to win. They just needed to make the cost of victory so high that the Council would choose peace instead. On Earth, Professor Alan Hughes worked in a secret laboratory beneath the Himalayas, putting the finishing touches on humanity's most ambitious project. The quantum network had been his life's work, a communication system based on quantum entanglement that allowed instant information transfer regardless of distance. Military applications had been obvious from the start, but building it on the scale needed to coordinate an entire solar system's defenses had taken decades of research. Alan was a man in his 60s, with wild gray hair and the intense eyes of someone who had sacrificed everything for his work. He had missed his children's childhoods, his marriage had ended years ago, and he had devoted every moment to this project. Now, as enemy warships gathered to destroy everything he had ever known, he finally had the chance to see if his sacrifice had been worth it. Dr. Hughes, quantum link stability is holding at 98% across all nodes. His assistant, a young physicist named Claire Webb, monitored the system's performance from her station. We're ready for the final connection sequence. Alan took a deep breath. Activate the network. Link every military asset in the solar system. Across Earth's sphere of influence, military commanders suddenly found their tactical displays transforming. Information that used to take minutes to transmit now appeared instantly. Targeting data from ships near Jupiter became available to defenders on Mars. Sensor readings from the asteroid belt fed directly into Luna Base's combat computers. The entire human military became a single, unified organism, capable of coordinating actions with perfect timing. Admiral Catherine Price felt the change immediately. Her tactical displays now showed not just her own forces, but every human asset in real time. She could see Captain Lisa Grant's position beyond the asteroid belt. The Council's armada entered Earth's solar system like a tide of metal and fire. 12,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their combined mass creating gravitational ripples that humanity's sensors detected from billions of miles away. They spread across space in organized groups. Each battle group assigned specific targets throughout the system. Admiral Catherine Price watched from Earth's orbital defense station as the enemy fleet deployed. Her tactical displays, enhanced by the quantum network, showed every enemy ship's position in real time. The scope of the invasion force was staggering. Even knowing it was coming, seeing 12,000 hostile vessels in her solar system made her chest tighten with fear. All ships, this is Admiral Price. Execute defensive plan Omega. Every unit knows their assignment. Fight smart, stay coordinated, and make every shot count. Earth is depending on us. Price out. Across the solar system, humanity's military forces acknowledged the order and moved into position. It was not a traditional defensive formation. Instead of clustering around Earth to make a final stand, human ships scattered throughout the system, turning asteroids, moons, and orbital platforms into a maze of potential ambush points. Captain Lisa Grant commanded the EDS Relentless from a position hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons. Her ship was humanity's most advanced warship, built using every piece of technology they could develop or steal. Around her, 24 other vessels waited in concealment, their weapons charged and ready. Lieutenant Ben Carter monitored the quantum network feeds at his tactical station. Captain, the Council fleet is splitting into 3 main groups. First wave heading for Luna Base, second wave targeting the asteroid belt installations, third wave holding position near Saturn. They're being cautious this time. Good, Lisa replied. Caution makes them predictable. Tactical, prepare the drone swarms. When the first wave engages Luna Base, I want those drones hitting the second wave from behind. Coordination is our advantage. We use it to create chaos in their ranks. On the moon, Colonel Ryan Blake stood in his rebuilt command center watching the Council's first wave approach. 5,000 warships, more than enough to glass the entire lunar surface. His defenses had been repaired and reinforced after the first battle, but he knew they could not withstand this level of assault for long. Major Sophie Turner, back from her reconnaissance mission, coordinated the base's defensive systems. Colonel, enemy fleet will be in firing range in 3 minutes. We're tracking over 800 capital ships in the first wave alone. They're spreading out to minimize our ability to concentrate fire. Then we adjust tactics, Ryan said calmly. Sophie, activate Defense Protocol 7. I want every gun on this moon firing independently at maximum rate. Don't try to coordinate volleys. Just put as much firepower into space as possible and force them to deal with it. The first wave entered lunar orbit, and the battle began again. Luna Base opened fire with everything it had. Railguns and missiles and energy weapons creating a storm of death around the moon. But this time the Council fleet was ready. Their shields held against the initial barrage, and they returned fire with coordinated precision. The lunar surface erupted in explosions as Council weapons struck defensive installations. Gun batteries that had survived the first battle disappeared in brilliant flashes of energy. Underground bunkers shook as near misses sent shockwaves through the rock. Ryan watched his tactical display as position after position went offline, his fortress being systematically dismantled by overwhelming firepower. Casualties? He asked quietly. Heavy, Sophie reported, her voice strained. We've lost 40% of surface installations. Underground facilities are holding, but if they maintain this bombardment, we'll be combat ineffective in 20 minutes. Ryan nodded. Luna Base had never been meant to win this battle alone. It was meant to tie up enemy forces, make them commit resources, buy time for the rest of humanity's defenses to execute their plans. All personnel to deep shelters. Automated systems will continue firing. We've done our job. Now we survive. While the Council's first wave battered Luna Base, their second wave advanced into the asteroid belt, hunting for the human installations hidden among the rocks. What they found instead was a nightmare of asymmetric warfare. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids, fired devastating volleys, and disappeared before return fire could hit them. Mines disguised as ordinary space debris exploded when Council vessels passed too close. Automated defense platforms powered up, unleashed missiles, and self-destructed before they could be targeted. Captain Lisa Grant watched from Jupiter's orbit as the second wave's formation began to fracture. Council ships broke off to pursue individual human vessels, stretching their lines and creating gaps in their coverage. That was when she gave the order. All ships engage. Drone swarms launch now. Hit them from every direction and don't let them regroup. The EDS Relentless burst from concealment along with 24 other warships, weapons blazing. At the same time, thousands of combat drones poured from hidden carriers, cheap autonomous fighters that existed solely to overwhelm enemy point defenses through sheer numbers. The Council's second wave suddenly found itself fighting on multiple fronts. Human ships attacked from unexpected angles, coordinating their fire through the quantum network to target the same enemy vessels simultaneously. Drones swarmed capital ships too numerous to shoot down, too small to effectively target with main weapons. Lieutenant Ben Carter coordinated the chaos from his tactical station, his displays showing dozens of simultaneous engagements. Captain, we're inflicting heavy casualties. The quantum network is letting us concentrate fire faster than they can adapt. Their second wave is taking significant losses. But Lisa knew this success was temporary. How long until their third wave moves to support? 15 minutes, maybe 20. Once they commit those forces, we'll be outnumbered again. Then we have 15 minutes to hurt them as badly as possible. All ships weapons free. Make every shot count. On Earth, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morris coordinated the solar system's defense from Admiral Price's command center. His displays showed 3 separate battles raging simultaneously. Luna Base under siege, the asteroid belt in chaos, and human ships throughout the system executing hit-and-run attacks wherever Council forces appeared. Admiral, we're losing Luna Base. Colonel Blake reports his surface defenses are down to 30% effectiveness. The asteroid belt installations are holding, but the second wave is still combat effective. Third wave is beginning to move toward Captain Grant's position. Catherine studied the tactical situation, seeing the larger pattern emerge. The Council was winning through sheer numbers just as expected. Human forces were fighting brilliantly, but brilliance only delayed the inevitable when facing such overwhelming odds. Jake, what's our casualty ratio? We're averaging 3 Council ships destroyed for every human vessel lost. It's an incredible exchange rate, but we're still losing the math. At this rate, they'll achieve space superiority in 6 hours. Catherine nodded slowly. 6 hours. That was longer than she had hoped for, but not enough to change the outcome, unless humanity's real strategy came into play. In the Council's flagship, Overseer Zarthene watched the battle with growing frustration. They were winning, but the cost was far higher than anticipated. The humans fought with tactical sophistication that belied their primitive status, coordinating across vast distances with impossible precision. Casualty report, Zarthene demanded. Commander Krell's holographic form flickered with barely contained anger. 800 ships destroyed, over 1,000 damaged. The humans are using some kind of instantaneous communication system that lets them coordinate attacks faster than we can respond. Our forces are winning through attrition, but these losses are unacceptable. Then increase the pressure. Commit reserve forces. I want this system secured before the humans can inflict more damage. But Chief Diplomat Sestar was studying a different set of data, and what she saw terrified her. Overseer, we have a critical problem. I'm receiving reports from Council space. Multiple systems are under attack. The flagship's command center fell silent. Zarthene turned towards Sestar, their golden form pulsing with confusion. Under attack from whom? Our entire military is here. From autonomous human weapons platforms. Sestar explained, her voice tight with worry. The reconnaissance ships we detected weeks ago did not just scout our territory. They deployed weapons hidden throughout our space, programmed to activate if Earth came under assault. Those weapons are now executing their programming. She brought up reports from across Council space. At a major shipyard in the Vortan system, automated human missiles had destroyed 3 vessels under construction. A communication hub in the Aquari sector had gone offline after being hit by kinetic projectiles. Supply depots reported attacks from stealth drones that appeared without warning, struck critical infrastructure, and disappeared. How bad is it? Zarthene asked quietly. Widespread but not catastrophic yet. These weapons are not trying to conquer our territory. They are targeting our logistics, our infrastructure, the systems that support this armada. And Overseer, there is more. Each weapon platform carries a recorded message that is broadcasting across